Hi, this is 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Today, we are looking at Dick Wilde 2. Dick Wilde 2 is a shooter on rails type game where you are moving through the swamp of the bayou or through an abandoned mine where Billy Bob, the brother of Dick Wilde, was lost. There's a lot of different areas that you can travel through and shoot, and this game was a lot of fun. In our VRGear game reviews, we like to cover as many aspects of the game as possible so that you can make an informed decision before you try or buy one of the VR titles. Dick Wilde 2 was a fun game, and there's a lot of things going on in this one, and we're excited to share it with you today. First, we want to talk about how to get up and running with Dick Wilde 2. This game is available on the Viveport Infinity subscription. It's available in the Steam store, the Oculus store, and the PSVR store. You can get it anywhere that there are VR games being sold. The download file is about 2 gigabytes and it downloaded fairly quickly and it installed automatically. After installation is complete and you launch the game, you'll find yourself in a menu, which is more like a campsite where Dick Wilde hangs out. Maybe this is his home. He is sitting in a lounging chair in front of a campfire, and the fun thing about this campsite is that it's fully interactive. You have 2 spam shooters, I think that's what they're called. They're guns that shoot spam, and you're able to shoot at anything in the campsite, either knocking it into the river or just onto the ground. We actually spent more time in the menu area in the campsite with Dick Wilde than we did in the gameplay, or at least we had more fun at the campsite in the menu items. But that's where the game starts, and that's where you pick where you're going to start your quest through the levels. This game is a first-person shooter on rails, and you will be sitting in a flotilla as you float down the bayou or the river or the canal that's running through the abandoned mine. You'll play the game with whatever guns you've selected from your inventory or that you've purchased from the store, and they will be out in front of you as you shoot objects out of the river, including floating barrels, refrigerators, barriers that seem to have been placed there during the Civil War. There's a lot of stuff in the river that you're gonna have to shoot, and that also includes beavers riding different vehicles that look like they're drills that are supposed to dig into the earth. I don't know. But all of these things are coming at you, and you need to shoot them with whatever weapon you've selected. If you don't, they hit you and reduce your health. Or they hit the boat, and the boat's integrity is compromised, and if these things happen too much, you either die and have to restart the level. So this game is, by all measures, a first-person shooter on rails. The theme of this game is swamp in the south, gunslinging, camp living, fight your way through the bayou type game. And it is kind of a tongue-in-cheek, funny little game that really is all about the funniness of being there with Dick Wilde in his campsite as you clear the river of debris. Your objective is to help Dick Wilde clean up his community by making the bayou that he lives in a lot cleaner, free of debris, free of crazy dangerous fish, jellyfish, angry beavers. That is the objective, and as you progress through the levels, your job gets harder and harder, but you're also able to get better weapons as you move. I personally found that the original pistols that they gave you at the very beginning, no matter what gun I was able to upgrade to, the pistols were the most reliable, the most accurate, and I just kept coming back to those. And so I was in more difficult levels and still using the introductory pistols because they were so reliable. The machine gun or the shotgun either fired too inaccurately with the machine gun, or the reload was way too slow with the shotgun, so pistols it was. And I did quite well moving through these different levels, clearing up all the trash in the swamp. The controls in this game are very straightforward. You have 2 triggers, and when you're navigating the menu, you have 2 cursor arrows. You'll find out pretty quickly, and the game doesn't tell you this, but you'll find out quickly that the right-hand cursor controls what gun goes into the right hand, and the left-hand cursor controls what gun goes into the left hand. And those controls don't overlap, and so they're fully independent controls for each hand, and so you'll need to use both as you navigate the menu. And you'll see both cursors the whole time as you navigate the menu and when you're in gameplay. There was some complications though. In gameplay, there was a power boost option, but I couldn't figure out what the key combinations were. Anytime I held down a button to engage the power boost, it quit the game. It had a progress bar that said, it had a progress wheel that once it filled up, it would quit the game. And so if I held down the touchpad or the control stick or any of the buttons, it would just quit the game. And so I was left not using the power boost. All I could do was pull the trigger, which for the most part was fine, unless I wanted to recover some of my health. But the controls were very simple. Trigger to shoot, there was no reloading, just firing nonstop. For music and sound in this game, there was some banjo playing, lighthearted music as you were in the menu, and there was also some lighthearted banjo music playing while you were progressing through the levels. The only element of sound that would make you afraid of the oncoming vicious animals were the sounds coming from the animals themselves. Otherwise, it was fun banjo music, and you were left to navigate the world with the audio presented to you. I did notice, though, that depending on what side of the screen Dick Wilde was on before the level started, you would hear him from that direction. And so spatial audio was something the developers did incorporate into this game. You did know where the objects were coming from to a degree. Everything in the game, though, was coming toward you from the front. And so the only time you could really detect whether or not sound was coming from the right or the left was when you were discussing the next level with Dick Wilde between the levels. But the sound and music of this game was pretty simplistic, and the audio was responsive to the way that you would fire your weapon, but nothing special, but it was well done for what it was. Player movement in this game was limited to you rotating, only slightly though, to aim and fire at oncoming objects or animals as you played each level. The whole level was played in front of you. No one came from the side. They came from angles, but not from your sides. You didn't have to turn around at all. And movement through the level, you were on rails. You were in a flotilla floating down a very slow moving river. Player movement was limited to just moving your arms. You can play this game sitting or standing. I played it sitting, but player movement was very limited here. Motion sickness in this game was very limited. In fact, there wasn't any motion sickness at all except for one moment, and that was at the very end of each level. While you're playing the level, you are moving at a constant rate. There is a boundary to the flotilla, so there's some stationary items that you are using as reference, and then the world beyond your flotilla is moving as you're progressing your way down the river. But the point that would cause motion sickness in this game, every single level, was when you would come to a stop. Just like in the real world, when you're on a very slow moving vehicle or boat, you feel the stop. It's very noticeable, even though it might be subtle. But that visual cue of your boat stopping, you see that, but you do not feel the physical cues because, of course, you're not really there. And every time that happened, I got slightly motion sick, a little queasy. That was irritating, but that was just part of what the game had. So during gameplay, no motion sickness at all. Menus, no motion sickness. It was transitioning from moving to stopping that really caused some motion sickness. Not a lot, but just enough to be uncomfortable and to not look forward to the end of each level. This game was very much a cartoon. It was very much a fun activity for people who really like rail shooters like this. The graphics were actually pretty good, and interacting with the environment was really quite satisfying. We spent a lot of time in the camp shooting cans and boots and drones and VR headsets that happened to be there, or shooting a firework container. The environment was very interactive in the menu. While playing the game and while you're in the level, the only things that will respond to your shooting were the items that you were supposed to destroy to clear the river, which actually was somewhat disappointing. I wish that the entire level was interactive, even though not everything would result in getting you points, or you didn't actually have to fire at that to clear the water. It would have been great to have more of the level during gameplay just as interactive as the entire camp was while we were there. But overall, it was great. The controls were responsive, the guns fired reliably in the same spot. There was a laser that was out in front of you, which is a very big deal when you have shooters, because in VR, you really don't know how straight things will fire and you don't know where they're gonna land. It's already hard enough to aim. This game did a great job helping you be consistent in your shot by having that laser out in front of you. The times that you actually were hit by one of the fish that were oncoming, the screen would turn red and you'd feel that your health was declining. That was helpful in contributing to the sense of immersion. But overall, the environment was fun and playful. It got a little tense when there was a lot of stuff going on, but it helped you focus in on what you were doing. Because your main objective was firing what was in front of you, you were able to focus on that task and really get into the game. All right, so let's talk about the scorecard for Dick Wilde 2 and how it did for all the different categories that we've reviewed. For theme and story, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. There is a clear theme and a clear story, but it's not very involved, not very complex. It's mostly just fun, and we couldn't give this game a score that was as high as things like Asgard's Wrath or others that have a very expansive and deep storyline. But there was a story and there was a theme, and it was playful and fun, so a 6 out of 10 for story and theme. For controls, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. One of the great things about this game is that there's only one button on each controller that you can use. The bad thing about this game is that there's only one button on each controller that you can use to play the game or navigate the menus. We wanted to use our player boost, but we couldn't figure that one out. The only other time we used another button was to quit out of the game, which we did inadvertently. We didn't want to quit. The controls need some work. We give this one a 6 out of 10 for controls. The music and sound of this game is going to get a middle-of-the-road score of a 5 out of 10. There was nothing super special about the music and sound here. They did incorporate some spatial audio, but only in the menu scenes. The characters in the game didn't actually have too much audio going on. There weren't very many sound effects when you were playing the game, aside from shooting and some splat sounds or crates exploding. But it would have been nice to hear that you were either in the open river or in an enclosed space floating down a river. There should have been some echo sounds, things like that. There's a lot of work to be done on the audio for this game, and so the music and sound gets a 5 out of 10. Player movement in this game is getting a 6 out of 10. The movement in the game is limited to rotating slightly to the right or left, looking up and down, and using your hands to fire weapons. There wasn't a lot of movement involved at all. You do sit on a flotilla that is floating down a river. This is a shooter on rails, so you aren't actually moving yourself, but there was a lot of limitations. It would have been nice to have more environment there that allowed you to rotate fully to the right or to the left. The game did not do that, and you weren't able to do it as a player through the movement mechanisms. So a 6 out of 10 for player movement. For motion sickness, we're giving this game a very high score of an 8 out of 10, and it would have been a perfect score except for that one moment at the end of each level where you see yourself coming to a slow stop, but you obviously don't feel it in the real world. So an 8 out of 10, a very high score, but not perfect for motion sickness. For environment and immersion, we're giving this game a 6 out of 10. Slightly better than middle of the road, and this score is because there is a lot of room for improvement. Even though this is a cartoon type game, there could be a lot more done with players feeling more immersed by having them be more reactive to the world that they're in. The flotilla could have been more realistic in the way that it responded to the river, and the characters that you were shooting at could have also responded in a more realistic way. That, along with the audio issues we have discussed, makes this game a 6 out of 10 for environment and immersion. And now for the overall score, this game is getting a 6.2 out of 10, slightly better than average. We did have a good time playing. If you do have the Viveport Infinity subscription, you can download this one right now as part of that subscription for free. If you don't, you can get this game on the Steam store, the Oculus store, and the PSVR store. But the score we're giving is a 6.2 out of 10. This has been 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell so that you can receive a notification tomorrow when we release another VRGear game review. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.